Sports Card Podcast, where we tackle the hobby's hottest topics in depth to help you navigate the sports card landscape and enjoy the hobby we all love. Here's your host, John Newman.
Welcome to another episode of the Hobby Quick Hits, the short form younger brother of Sports Card Nation podcast. Today's show, I try to keep it positive on both of my shows. I believe in that. I try to live my life sort of outside the hobby in that capacity. And so this show is going to be sort of, a little different. Not going to be bad, but we're going to talk about a little bit of the angrier side of the hobby.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
I'm sort of a happy-go-lucky guy. I had someone tell me in a private message, well, John, it's easy to be positive and happy when you're making a lot of sales and you're doing well. How are you if that's not the case? And there are days and months where, I'm not making as many sales. I'm still having fun. Again, I'm, full disclosure, I don't live off my card sales. It's extra side hustle money, whatever you want to call it. Now, 2020 was absolutely insane. I almost, I probably could have lived off of just the card sales. It was that kind of year. But I don't believe that happened. I think that's sort of an anomaly. We'll see what 2021 is fast out of the gate. But again, it's early. I'm not anticipating the same totals when 2021's over. But again, I wasn't expecting that in 2020. So who's to say? And truthfully, I'm hoping I'm wrong. Because if I'm wrong, that means I had another terrific year again. And so, to answer the question, well, John, it's easy to be kind of, happy-go-lucky, cheerful when you're doing well. And yeah, I'm not going to say you're wrong. Sure, I think that goes across the board. If you're doing well in any kind of line of work or any entity, you're probably most likely going to be happy about it, have a good disposition and whatnot. But truth be told, I can only speak for myself here. My disposition is really the same, at any time, or at least I attempted to be. I will say this, to be fair, when I was younger, I was more of a hothead, and as an athlete, I'd argue with a ref. I've been, I'm not proud of it. I've been ejected from a game. It's not my finest moment. As a coach, I would argue a call with a referee. I have a mean, I don't want to say a mean streak, but I get animated. I get fiery over certain things, but generally I try to kind of let stuff roll off my back, turn the other cheek, and my philosophy is kind of like this. We're only here for a certain amount of time, some longer than others, and I don't know, how long that's going to be. You don't know. You can get in your car, God forbid, and something happens on the road, and it's over, right? And so I kind of live with the philosophy, like, I work, I provide for my family. My wife works, she provides for the family. I want to have fun. Like work, and work's not terrible. I have fun at work too. But I want to have an outlet. I want to have fun, when you can kind of come home, take your coat off and conversate with your family and then spend maybe an hour and do your hobby, right? And enjoy it. And everyone has different outlets, right? If you're in the hobby, sports cards, baseball cards are your outlet. If you're a musician playing in a band, you're a guitarist, you're a drummer, you're a singer, that's your outlet. That's your adrenaline rush. If you're an athlete, game time, right? You get those butterflies, that's your outlet. And so whatever, even surgeons will tell you, like, as nerve-wracking and someone's life is in their hands on that OR table, that's their adrenaline rush. This is what they trained for. This is what, they don't want anyone necessarily to be in that predicament, but it's game day for them. And so whatever line of work or whatever hobby you're in, that's your outlet, right? That's kind of what I don't want to say you live for, but maybe for some, but that's really what you kind of your escape from the mundanes of everyday life. And, the hobby is sort of different for me because I got in at 15 and was a paying sales tax person. And so early on, it was sort of, at 15, it was my job doing card shows. Then, I did get a regular job and did the card stuff on the side. Then at 20, I opened up a store with a partner and did that for 5 years. Then I left the store, took a buyout, and just did shows. And so cards have always been sort of an outlet for me. Coaching varsity sports when I did that also could qualify as an outlet. As long a days as those were, I enjoyed them for the most part. Don't miss them though as much as I thought I would. And my dad's a drummer. At 82 years old, he plays in 3 bands to this day. God bless him. That's his outlet. And if you see my dad on that drum kit and just chanting and banging away at those skins, it's while I don't like, he 2 of the bands he plays in are country music, and I'm talking the old country music, not my stuff, but just to get to see him play and get that release, and at 82 years old, it's fun to watch and cool to watch. And so whatever your thing is, I just bring up those things as examples. You might have something else that I didn't mention, and that's great. I still play competitive men's softball. I've done that since the age of 19. Pretty fiery. I've mellowed out over the years, but still play. I think we're coming down to the end, quite frankly, of that. As sad as that sort of is to say, and got to make a lot of great friends. And that's it. I'm doing the math: 29, 30 years of playing, men's competitive softball, and some of the guys I've played with from the age of 19, 20, and now I'm 48. And so somebody that long, it's hard to explain that, but it's pretty cool. And so that's sort of winding down. But whatever your outlet is, it's your outlet, right? You enjoy it, and that's great. But I want to talk about the other side. And I did a show already about addiction. In other words, getting in too deep, getting kind of consumed, eaten by this monster called the hobby. I've seen guys do that. But this show is about going where something from makes you happy to making you miserable, right? And angry and angst. And we've seen a lot of that. I mean, it's always been a part of the hobby. I don't want to make it like it's some new phenomenon, because it isn't. I've been in this hobby 30-something years, and I can tell you 30 years ago, I seen some things. But I don't know, the last 2-3 years, my observations, there's just more vitriol, really nasty stuff, like personal attacks, name calling, finger pointing, blaming, making someone out to be like the Antichrist and terrible, almost like a criminal. And I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know if it's coming from a point of jealousy. I don't know if it's coming from a point of, speaking recently with the pandemic, just people kind of, tired of it already, and I can't do the things that I can do, and I'm stuck home, and, I got to wear these masks for 10 hours a day, and that, I don't know if it comes from that place. I don't know if it's just, I think some of it's just DNA. I think we all know, let's be real, right? I keep it real. There's people, just miserable people, right? They just wake up and they're angry at the world, right? Or everyone's out to get them. How about that person? I almost said guy, but it could be women too. How about that person, right? Everyone's out to get them, right? Everyone's against me. It's me against the world. And those people are real. And so, this hobby's supposed to be fun. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's not some days where I'm like, it's not my best day for whatever reason, right? But, if I have one of those days, I have 20 good or great ones. And so those sort of bad days, if you will, are few and far between, thankfully. Knock on my glass desk here. But, but I see a lot in the hobby, and I can mention names. I'm not going to do that. They know who they are. Some other people know who they are. And it's not one person. There's multiple, and people I don't even know that are probably like this. If the hobby's not fun for you anymore, and Mike Summer, I give him credit. He did a show. I forgot the title of it. I listened to it. It was well done, as most of his stuff is. He talked about, hey, you're not having fun in a hobby, get out. I think that was kind of the title of the show. And, I kind of agree. I don't want you to leave. That's not what I'm saying. I'll speak for myself here. It's not what I'm saying. But if you're that unhappy, right, with something, then you've got to put that to the side. And maybe it's not healthy for you to stay involved. And there's different ways, going back to Mike's show where he said, get out. There's different ways to get out, right? I mean, you could just completely get rid of all your stuff, sell your stuff, and be, literally close the door behind you and be done with it. You could take a pause. Hey, I don't have to sell any of my stuff. I'm just going to put it away. I'm going to not be involved in the hobby. I'm not going to go on eBay or social media. I'm going to take a pause, take a break, decompress. I do what I call a little decompression even now, and I'm having a great time, and I still will decompress. There's some weekends where I say I'm not going to, especially if I'm not on the Hobby Hotline show, which I do on some Saturday mornings. If it's not my day, I'm not going to do a lot of card stuff this week. I'm going to pack up any orders I need to pack up. That just comes with the territory. I believe in same day shipping or next day shipping. So, if something comes in on Friday or Saturday, I'm getting those packaged up. But there's some days where that's all I'll do. I don't. I go on social media very little. I may not post a lot. I may just kind of do things around the house. Sweeping, vacuuming. Tend to the hot tub, put the chemicals in, get in the hot tub. I call it decompress. Hey, I'm taking 2 days away from the hobby, away from content creation, and I may not answer private messages right away. I tend to answer them the same day too. I think it's sort of rude to just completely blow somebody off. I don't do that. I wouldn't want someone doing that to me. So in turn, I'm not going to do that to someone else. But I really sort of take a step back from the hobby. You have my phone in my hand less, if you will. And you can do things like that. Kind of take self-imposed breaks. Take a pause. It don't have to be 2 days. It could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months. I talk about my experience in the hobby. I also went dormant for 3 to 4 years, when my son was younger. And when I say dormant, I didn't get rid of my stuff. I just put it away and didn't do anything. I didn't buy cards. I didn't sell cards for like a 3 to 4 year stretch. Just didn't do it. I don't even, my son was younger and my focus was sort of there. And that's where I wanted to be. And I didn't hate cards. It wasn't coming from a place of angst. I just wanted to spend time with my young son at the time, whose name is Jordan. And then, as he got older, I kind of got back in, and then showed him it and got him involved in cards in some capacity. And so, if you get to a point, where I'm going with this is this. If you get to a point where you're angry or it's causing you maliciousness, that stuff is not healthy. We don't think of, and, I'm not the poster boy for perfect health. Don't get me wrong. That's all the more reasons I choose to be happy, because that if you're angry and depressed, that does a number to you internally. And I'm not 6'2" and 175 pounds of chiseled six pack, right? And most people who know that, right? So I'm not going to further complicate things, if you will, by just being an angry mess all the time and depressed and upset and mad at the world, and this hobby stinks and this guy sinks. And listen, there are things in a hobby that I think are terrible. People who go in the Walmart and Target and search packs and feel the packs up, cut them open and pull the stars. Like, there's no call for that. It's illegal. Card trimming. All the pratfalls of the hobby that are legal and no good, I don't enjoy them, right? They're wrong. But I don't let them get me to that point where it makes me almost physically ill. And I think for some other people, they get to that point. And so, that stuff will do, you may not even realize it now, but the long-term ramifications of that will reveal themselves potentially. And I hope that never happens. Don't get me wrong. But, and I'm not a doctor. I'm married to a nurse. That's about as close to a doctor as I'm going to be at this point. But I also know, like, that your mental mindset, affects your body and your things inside. And I just choose to have fun, sort of be happy, try to help folks out. Someone asks me something, I'm going to respond and be helpful and be an ambassador, be an advocate of a hobby that I love and been involved with for 30-something years now, and probably will be, until the end, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I'm going to try to enjoy it as much as I can. And so, some options, if you're at a place that's not good with the hobby and that light bulb goes off, or on, I should say, and you realize you're at that breaking point, things you can do, like I mentioned, you can get out. You can sell, kind of just turn the page and go away. Many have done that. Many have come back, too. If you think it's something where, hey, if I did sell all my stuff, I'm going to miss it. I can't get that stuff back, or some of it I may not get back. I don't want to do that, but I also don't. I need to take a break. You can take that pause, right? Kind of whatever self-imposed pause you want to put. I take weekends sometimes where I don't do anything card-wise. You may do that. You might say, hey, I'm going to take a month, not look at a card, not open social media, whatever. 2 months, 2 years, take a sabbatical, right? Whatever works to decompress, to get in that better frame of mind. This is more than just about the card. This is about, the internals and the health. And if you're not having, the hobby's supposed to be fun. Like, even people who do this full time, breakers, card stores, even me, I'm not full time, but even I do a lot of sales online. It's supposed to be fun, and that's what it's about. So if you're not having fun, if you're at a point where it's really sort of a downer to you, or angst driven, or putting you in that place, you really got to do some self introspection. Decide, do I want to keep doing this and feeling this way? And again, I hope you never get to that place. But if you do, taking a pause is not the end of the world. Whatever that pause, you say, hey, I'm going to take 2 months and not do anything in the hobby for 2 months. And you might get a month in, right? A month in and say, you know what? I miss it. And I'll come back. Sometimes the absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? You take that month off, you realize how much it means to you, and you miss it. And you kind of come back with a different frame of mind, right? Like, I'm not going to let things get to me. If I see something, I may not like it, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day. I'm not going to, stop me from enjoying my hobby. This is your hobby. I know there's millions of us in the hobby, but this is your hobby. Any way you want to consume it, right? In any form or fashion. Graded cards, not graded cards. I collect all of this player. I collect, this team. I collect Hall of Fame rookie cards graded. Anyway, there's a million ways to hobby. No, and different ways. And so whatever you choose, maybe, forget about taking a break or quitting cold turkey and getting out of the hobby. What about even pivoting into a different way to hobby, right? Hey, I'm going to start collecting this guy, right? Or I'm going to start trying to get every Topps card of this team. Or I'm going to get every Hall of Fame goalie, rookie card. Whatever you decide to do, whatever is a challenge keeps you, happy, motivated, ecstatic. You can do that too. It's not just leaving or taking a break or a pause, but maybe a different approach, right? If you're maybe a graded person who's frustrated by some of the ills of grading, and yes, as much as I love grading, they're their own worst enemy too. I'm not a hypocrite about it. I tell it like it is. And maybe, if it bothers you to the point where it soured you on that, maybe you just don't do grading anymore. I do graded cards, I do raw cards, so if graded cards went away or all the graded companies packed up shops and closed their doors, I'm not going to leave. As much as I love it, it's a huge percentage of what I do, I'll just pivot. I'm already have raw stuff, and so it's not going to change, me at all, or I'm not going to leave the hobby about that. So you can change as well, and so whatever works for you. And I love the fact that we're both in this hobby, and we share this hobby together. But there's if you're not happy, you have some options to maybe get back to that happy place in the hobby, or maybe not. Maybe it's not for you, and if it's just causing you that much grief, maybe it's better you're not. I mean, no, I can't speak for everyone or paint everyone with a broad brush. So I want to kind of talk about this. It's something I've noticed kind of ramped up the last few years. It bothers me to see people like that. It bothers me, but I don't let it bother me to the point where it ruins my hobby. I talk about this all the time. I try to avoid message boards, which I do. I don't go on message boards, even on Twitter. Every once in a while, I'll get sucked in to a debate over something, but I generally steer around those. There's times where I may even have a reply typed out on my phone, and I just don't hit send, right? Just back out and say, let it go, John. It ain't worth it. And if you send this in the next 2 hours, you're going to be trading tweets about it. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I got other things I'd rather do in productive time. That 2 hours I could do, 3 hobby quick hit show, maybe 4. And I'd rather be more productive. And so that's me. But just kind of wanted to touch base on just things I've noticed the last couple of years with, more angry people, and I'm really angst-driven stuff, and if you're not that, if you're sort of like me, kind of a happy-go-lucky, good-spirited about the hobby, just drive around that stuff. Look at that stuff as like potholes in the road that you can see, and see them approaching, and just kind of drive around them and smooth sailing. So I hope you're enjoying the hobby. I'm glad you're here, and I thank you for listening to Hobby Quick Hits. We come out every Wednesday, and again, thank you. And if you ever have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to help you out. With that being said, we'll see you next time on Hobby Quick Hits. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. They give you the tools that are needed to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And they distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast. It's why I use it and why you should too. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.